Developed by Soil Essentials, the SKAi Spot Sprayer is an advanced spot spraying system powered by artificial intelligence. On this week's FAS TV, contractor Richard Young discusses the potential benefits of precision weed control. And later we hear from Peter Beattie, Monitor Farm Scotland North Facilitator, and Calum Smith, who farms at Auchernack, the Strathspey Monitor Farm, on how this new technology is being used to control and tackle docks and weeds.
Hi, my name's Richard Young. We farm at Leathenbury Farm, Cromdale. Typical farm for this area of cows and sheep, and we run a small contracting business specialising in grassland operations, spraying, fertiliser, baling, that kind of thing. So we started farming up here in 2019. I came from a family farm where we did contracting. Mainly the contracting started because I wanted to justify the machines we use on the farm. So we're using contractors for baling and spraying and that kind of thing. So we bought the baler and then we started doing the spraying, fertiliser, but mainly just to justify the machinery we have on the farm. And there was probably a need in the local area for somebody to do small jobs here and there, and that kind of suited with the work on the farm, just helping out here and there. So that's how we started contracting. The SKAi Spot Sprayer, it's been on the go for a few years. I've followed it since its sort of conception. Farming up here over the last 5 years, dockings was becoming a real issue. We were having to spray entire fields and stitch back in clover. So I followed this machine from the start. I just thought it'd be a great fit for this area, saving on the clover, saving on the chemicals. So we purchased the machine last year and it's been great so far. Yeah, we were lucky enough to get funding through the Cairngorms National Park, their Climate Adaptation Fund. It's open to all businesses in the National Park. It's for any projects that's helping the climate emergency. I thought the machine would be a good fit for that fund, so we applied last May and we got grant approval in June. Because obviously it's an expensive piece of kit, there's a lot of technology on there. Pretty much out the reach of most farms to buy as a standalone, so I thought it'd be a good machine to buy to add to the contracting fleet, to offer it as a service in the National Park. And luckily they agreed and we were given grant funding last year and the machine came home in September. So this is our first full year using the SKAi Spot Sprayer. So the SKAi Spot Sprayer essentially uses cameras to identify the weeds. This machine is a 15-metre machine. It's got 5 cameras, 1 mounted on the front of the tractor, 2 on each boom, covering 3 metres each. So the camera is forward facing, it's scanning the grass in front, it identifies the weeds, mainly dockings and thistles, and within a millisecond I think it decides whether that is a docking or not, and then each individual nozzle, they're solenoid controlled so it can switch on individual nozzles. So within a millisecond it's identified the weed. When you pass over it, it sprays that weed, and that weed only. It just switches them on and off as and when it needs to. There's loads of parameters you can set to fine-tune the machine for different conditions, but that's essentially what it's doing. It's photographing the weeds, identifying the weeds, spraying the weeds without spraying the entire field. Well, historically, if you had a large docking infestation, you'd be forced to spray the entire field, and there's virtually no chemicals that are clover safe. So if you sprayed your dockings or your thistles, you were wiping out your clover. And then you'd either have to go back in, stitch in the clover, or just do without the clover. So this machine allows you to go in and just spray the weeds only. And I'm finding most fields are between 10 and 50%. I'd say the average is probably 20% of the field that I'm spraying, whereas in the past you'd spray 100% of the field. So the saving is on the chemicals and the fact that your clover is still there and available and you're not having to spend more money stitching in the clover. So a lot of the areas we're covering, this area is rough grazing, it's permanent pasture. So we're not just leaving the clover, we're leaving all the species-rich grassland, we're just applying chemical exactly where it's needed. So there's savings on the chemicals for the environmental side of it, but also we're leaving the grass alone. We just spray the weeds and the weeds only. No, it's our first year with the machine, so we're learning as we go. There is a threshold. You know, if your field's really bad with dockings, you know, the machine can't. It's going to switch the nozzles on all the time. So we're finding there is a point where a blanket spray will be necessary. But in most cases, the advantages are there. Even if you're spraying 50, 60, 70% of the field, there's still a saving to be had, and you're still leaving in most of the clover alone. But as I say, most of the fields I've been in have been between 10 to 30% sprayed area, which is it's less than you think. When you're actually spraying the field, you think the nozzles are on quite a lot. I mean, you can map the field after to see exactly where the chemical's been applied, and it looks like you've covered a lot more of it. But when you work out the chemical used and the water used, it's generally about 20–30%, something like that. Yeah, I'm part of the Monitor Farm management group at Auchernack. We had this machine up on demo at one of our open meetings last year. So this year we've just been in and done 3 fields at Auchernack. One of them was a reseed, which was quite bad with dockings, smaller dockings, so it was harder for the machine to get, so it'll be interesting to see how much it has gotten. The other 2 fields, one was a rough grazing, established dockings. I'm pretty confident it'll have made a good job there. And the last field was a silage field. It's had slurry on it, and I think they've had problems most years in there, so we've done that as well. It'll be interesting to see how that works out for them. But we got a good kill, it was a good day, and I think it's made a good job. Yeah, the SKAi sports sprayer's got more technology than I pretend to understand, so it's constantly monitored by Soil Essentials. I mean, the sprayer is a team sprayer. They buy the sprayer and then they add all the magic onto it. So we pay an annual subscription to Soil Essentials, and they look after all the technical side of it. And that also gives you updates to the machine. So at the moment, the machine is set for dockings and thistles, but it's also what they call pre-commercial on rushes, ragwort and nettles. So at the moment it will spray those weeds, it's just not 100%. They're working all the time to improve the capabilities, and they'll get there. But at the moment, dockings and thistles. But as part of your subscription, we get constant updates. The guys at Soil Essentials are monitoring the machine as we're using it. They can identify any problems, they can fine tune it, they can tweak it, they can give you advice. So from that side of it, the guys that know what they're talking about give you the backup to make sure it works at the best of its ability. I mean, the machine can identify weeds in quite long silage. It's amazing what it can see. Sometimes I get out the cab, it's sprayed something, I want to see what it's sprayed, and it's seen the smallest docking. I mean, perfect, you want a good docking, a good dinner plate size docking is ideal, actively growing, warm weather, calm winds. I think there's a lot to be said for getting the docking sprayed in silage aftermath, August, September. I think you get a good kill at that time of year as well. But as long as the docking's there, the computer, the cameras will see it, and you can get spray onto it, you will knock the docking. But the optimal time, I think, is probably in August, September, when they're still actively growing and they can take in the chemicals right down to the roots. So the sprayer comes with 5 cameras, which you pay an annual subscription to Soil Essentials for, and that gives you access to all their technical backup, all their latest updates, and all the software's covered with that. So they guys have your back, and they're constantly improving it. At the moment, it's set for dockings and thistles, but there's more weeds coming along all the time. They're putting a lot of work in, these guys, to get it better, to improve the system all the time. No, the amazing thing about this machine is how quick it works. You could be in a really bad field of dockings, and the cameras are working hard to pick up every single docking, and they're taking a video of the docking, they're analysing that docking, they're deciding, is it a docking, am I going to spray that docking? And within seconds, they've decided that and sprayed the docking. So at the moment the machine's set up, it's the centre of the docking is spraying 0.3 of a metre after the docking and 0.5 of a metre before the docking to make sure we get the whole weed. But there's so much fine tuning can be done with the machine. You can narrow that right down to get as accurate as you can. In the right conditions, you can narrow that right down so you're only getting the docking. And the savings on chemicals just get better and better the narrower you can make that gap. But at the moment it's set 0.3, 0.5, so that's the kind of box you're spraying round every docking. Yeah, the machine's obviously linked through, it's got Wi-Fi, it's GPS linked to the tractor, that's how it operates. So that gives the Soil Essentials guys access to your machine while you're in the field, while you're operating. They can help you out, they can adjust things, they can deal with issues, they can see issues happening in real time, and that really gives you the confidence to know that you're doing as good a job as the machine can manage.
Well, I first came across SKAi in its infancy when I worked for Soil Essentials about 7 or 8 years ago. And we were looking then at dock recognition, the very, very earliest attempts to use AI to identify docks. But that all started with a whole load of researchers in an English university poring over about 60,000 images of docks at all sorts of angles and all sorts of sizes, and then recognising them, and then that being fed in to computer software to do the first part of the research. And the first part of SKAi It wasn't called that then, it was just a weed identifier, and then trying to link that to a fast enough relay so that if you took a picture of it, it would then activate the sprayer. And I take my hat off to Soil Essentials and their engineers and others who worked and persisted at this, because it was a great idea then, and it was fantastic to see it a couple of years ago. We keep in our connection with Monitor Farm Scotland and Soil Essentials because they were doing soil sampling, the first round of soil sampling for us on all the monitor farms. We invited them to do a demo of the SKAi system out at the Deeside Monitor Farm, or up at Ingliston at the time. And I think that impressed a lot of people. But the technology was new, it takes a bit of time to filter through and into people's minds, I think, that this is something that could work. The thing about over in, I think a lot of farmers over in Deeside would agree, is that they do have a dock problem in some of their intensive grassland. So the idea and the notion to use something like this selectively, certainly to protect the clover swards, was good. What we then did is the monitor farm at Strathspey here was interested in it for an agri-tech meeting that we had, an open meeting last summer. And once again we got the SKAi sprayer up, more advanced, more ready to be used. And again, I think a slightly different angle on it as well. Managing these clover-rich swards is really important here. A lot of farmers are not into big applications of fertiliser, so the clover plays a big part in their established grasslands. But the dock problem, again, in some of the best pasture land here is immense. And so the people were laying out putting new grassland in with clover, seeing the dockings come through, spraying it, killing out the clover. And then, as we were demonstrating last year as well, Rich does have a system too to stitching in seeds, including clover-rich seeds, into pastures that have been hammered by sprays. Auchernack's a great example of a farm where this kind of system really suits, because it's a very, very species-rich grassland anyway, and farm. It's something that Malcolm and Hamish and Calum are very rightly proud of. What's really important in Strathspey is that we've got a lot of species-rich grassland here. So we see this at Auchernack in particular, but we know there are parts of this area here where these are old grasslands, or they've got that history of old grassland, and we're talking rare bits of ground that have got a lot of species apart from clover, and a blanket spray doesn't do the best for these pastures. And yet, where you can use something like this on a species-rich grassland, you can think about going into it. You can think about using it, getting rid of your docks, getting rid of some of getting rid of the thistles as well, and at the same time enhancing what is really valuable in this area. It's something that the Smiths are very conscious of. They've got one of the most amazing farms here for older pastures which are species rich, and a lot of that seed must still exist in some of the lower, more intensive fields, and I think you'll see the benefit from that as they continue to spray using the SKAi sprayer rather than a blanket sprayer over their grassland. Also, in terms of you'd call regenerative farming, it's going to enhance their clover richness in the sward. This is the challenge they've got of keeping that dockings under control without wiping out their clover. And they are using very little fertiliser across that farm now. They're using slurries, they're using digestates, and they're using their own manures as well to enhance that ground, to fertilise that ground. And I think SKAi sprayer can only help with that process and that principle.
So my name's Calum Smith. We're here at Auchernack, the Strathspey Monitor Farm. In the 4 years we've been doing it, there's been a big focus on technology and improvements, and
a big focus for us towards the end of the programme has been improving the longevity of our grassland, improving how many years we can get out of things, and reducing the cost of constantly reseeding all the time. Because we use a lot of slurry, dockings are always going to be an issue, whether it's coming in the feed or going out in hay to sheep or whatnot. We're always going to end up with them, so we've come to agree with the fact that we're always going to have them. We have roughly 120 acres of first cut and second cut silage. We're very tight on grazing, with less than 100 acres, well, for 150 cows just about. We are very tight on that, so every blade of grass counts. Keeping the swards in as good a condition as we can, it's in your best interest to do so. It's not just for yourself, but it's for your neighbours as well. If you're verged with anyone else, you're not doing any weed control or anything like that. It doesn't do anyone else any favours either. So this field in particular is 3-year-old grass. It's part of our silage crop. It was hammered quite badly with sheep in the springtime and the spring previous. We're feeding hay to the sheep at the same time in a field that is in a scheme which doesn't permit spraying. Unfortunately, there's dockings coming through the hay, which is now coming back through the sheep into the silage ground. It's inevitable, it's unavoidable, unfortunately. But we now have ways to deal with that without damaging too much of the sward. The clover is a big part of our silage crop, and it keeps the grass in good condition as well. It's important to protect that. So we'd heard about the Strathspey a couple of years ago, and we were desperate to see it in action. Fortunately, we got the demo here last year at our open day for Monitor Farm, and the results were tremendous. Previously, because of our tight rotation for grass going into barley and our rotation periods, we grudged spraying because the only option was to blanket spray, and we were losing all our clover, and we were ploughing swards up at 5-year-old, maybe 2-3-year-older than we wanted to, because the clover was non-existent because we were so focused on getting rid of the dockings. Now, with the spot sprayer being available, not just available in our area like 5 miles down the road, you can literally pick and choose whatever fields you want to do, and you're not damaging the long-term longevity of your silage fields. It does take the sting out of it a lot. Before the chemical was quite expensive, and there was no leeway for how much chemical they had to use. You had to use a concentrated rate to kill them, and that was going over the whole field. Now you'll be lucky if he uses 10% of what he needs now with the same machine. It's just an acrely charge, which isn't drastic, so he's covering the same amount of acres, but he's not damaging the rest of the sward. Rich was in last Saturday, a week past Saturday, and we sprayed 30 acres with it. This is all fairly young grass. It would be the similar age to this, maybe 1 or 2 years older, all at a fairly similar stage. They've had sheep on them grazed in the winter time, they've had hay. The dockings unfortunately have gone out through the hay. They're starting to appear in the sward at a very early stage, which is great because we go on with a lot of slurry and fertiliser at one point as well, and it's the perfect stage for him to catch them when they're proud of the grass and the grass hasn't caught up with them yet. We're big on technology at home ourselves. Any little advancements, any little improvements, we're keen to try just about anything. It is in turn, you're looking after the environment by not using as much chemical as you were previously, which has got to benefit everybody else. It'll benefit the healthier grass, the healthier cattle, everything else around it. You're not damaging the extended ecosystem of the farm by blanket spraying for something in an area that is not even there. We have seen improvements last year with the 2 fields that they demoed the spot sprayer in. The silage quality has increased, not drastically, but it's a lot better than it was. It's one of these things that if you don't keep on top of it, it just permanently damages things. And people say your cows won't eat dockings. They don't. You can eat them in silage, but it goes back into your system, and then the cycle just continues and continues, and you end up with more dockings in your field. And because we use the slurry so much, to save money on chemical fertilisers as well, it's unavoidable, unfortunately. With regards to cost, it's very much the same cost as blanket spraying. Whether you're purchasing the chemical yourself or the contractor is providing the chemical along with the service, it doesn't seem to differ in cost. He's travelling over the same amount of acres, he's not damaging anything else but what needs to be gotten rid of, the dockings and nettles and thistles. He's done everything. He's done all 3 of those for us here, and all of it's been successful. We didn't really have any reservations about it to start after we saw the demonstration. It very much, to see it working without too many folk watching, and then to see a contractor who is forward thinking and has invested the time and effort to learn about the machine to get the maximum out of it as well, puts a lot of faith in you as well, that you're going to get the job done the way you want it to be done.